Maybe you don't know it, but your aura unsettles people. Not because you talk too loudly, not because you try to impress. What unsettles them is your silence, your calm, what you radiate without saying a word. Some people get nervous around you. Others walk away without knowing why. Some even hold resentment toward you without ever expressing it. Your energy is stronger than you imagine. And in a world that vibrates on the surface, those who carry deep light quickly become anomalies. In this video, I'm going to reveal 10 signs that your aura is too powerful and you don't even know it. Carl Jung understood this. What you ignore about yourself eventually governs your life. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear might explain many things you've never been able to name. Since ancient times, sages have always known that a human being can radiate far beyond their physical body. The Egyptians spoke of the Ka, an invisible force surrounding the person, a testimony to their inner power. In India, it was called prana. In early Christian thought, some associated it with grace or anointing. More recently, Carl Jung, without using the term, described this phenomenon as the living expression of both the individual and the collective unconscious, a silent emanation that influences our environment without our awareness. But this truth was rejected by modern society because it escapes material logic. It disturbs because it can't be measured, controlled, or sold. Yet it exists, and those who carry it, even unintentionally, always end up provoking reactions that no one dares to explain. Maybe you've wondered why your mere presence is enough to make some people uncomfortable. Without speaking or acting, you trigger reactions, silences, tension, judgment without foundation. It's not you they reject, it's what you radiate, your aura. It acts on a level few understand, but many feel, sometimes violently. In a world that prefers illusion, those who radiate become a threat. Here are 10 signs your aura is too powerful, and you don't even know it. Let's begin with the first sign. You unsettle people without doing anything. You walk into a room and something freezes. You don't know exactly why, but you feel it. It's not paranoia. It's not a vague impression. It's a silent signal your body picks up before your mind can even process it. Eyes shift. Conversations change tone. Some go quiet. Others become tense, abrupt, defensive. And you haven't even said a word. You're not trying to draw attention, but your presence is felt. And it's felt like a shock because it doesn't match the ambient vibration. You don't play games. You don't seduce. You don't manipulate. You're just there, authentic, intact, and in a world built on appearances. That alone is enough to make people uncomfortable. Your aura acts like a mirror. It doesn't flatter the ego, it confronts it. It doesn't comfort illusions, it exposes them. And some people can't handle that. Your calm becomes a threat to those who live in chaos. Your silence becomes an attack to those who define themselves by noise. Your gaze becomes unbearable for those who avoid their own reflection. And you feel it deeply, even if you don't always understand where it's coming from. So sometimes you doubt yourself. You tell yourself to be lighter, more social, more smooth. You think you should adapt. But what you must understand is this. Your mere existence shakes structures that are not based on truth. And that is your strength. It's not a curse, it's a sign. A sign that your inner light is real. And in the dark, light always terrifies. The second sign, you attract confessions and then rejection. You don't ask for anything. You don't push anyone to open up. And yet again and again, people come to you with stories they've never told anyone. They share deep wounds, painful secrets, thoughts they've never dared speak out loud. Sometimes it catches you off guard. You don't know why they chose you, why they expose such fragile parts of themselves. But there is something in your energy, in your aura's frequency, that soothes. You radiate a presence that doesn't judge, that doesn't interrupt, that doesn't impose opinions or solutions. You let others exist as they are, in their naked truth, and that is rare. That tears down masks. But here lies the trap. What brings relief in the moment can become unbearable right after. Once the words are spoken, once vulnerability is handed over, the other person realizes they've been emotionally exposed. And that emotional nakedness becomes intolerable. They feel seen, fragile, unmasked, and sometimes they reject you without explanation. They pull away, become cold, distant, even aggressive, as if they needed to erase you, to forget what they revealed about themselves. It's not that you did anything wrong. It's that you became a witness to something they would have preferred to hide, even from themselves. And your memory becomes a threat, not because you use it, but simply because it exists. You represent the moment they truly saw themselves, perhaps for the first time. And for many, that is unbearable. You must know, this dynamic is not personal. It's energetic. You are a catalyst, a channel. And sometimes, those who pass through your energy with trust turn against you because they weren't ready to face what they encountered through you. It's not your burden to carry their rejection. It's theirs to take the journey toward their own truth. And if they don't, that is not your failure. It is simply the price of light in a world that prefers the shadows. The third sign, you become a target for projections. You don't know why, but some people seem to assign you intentions you never had. They hint at accusations. They suspect you of absurd things. They burden you with emotions you don't feel. You sense a distortion in their gaze, as if what they see in you isn't who you are, but what they are running from in themselves. And that's exactly what's happening. Your aura, because it is stable, because it doesn't pretend, becomes a screen, a mirror. It reflects, unintentionally, what others don't want to admit in themselves. Doubt, jealousy, rejection, fear of abandonment, shame, a sense of failure, all of it they project onto you. Carl Jung explained this with unsettling clarity. What we refuse to recognize in ourselves, we project outward. And when you are someone who is lucid, aligned, transparent within, you become, for them, a surface too clean, too pure. Their inner mess becomes visible, and they make you pay for it. Not because you harmed them, but because they saw their own face in yours. It's deeply unfair, and often painful, especially when it comes from people you love or respect. You don't understand their rejection, their sudden coldness, their distrust. You try to fix it, to explain yourself, but you forget you are not the problem. You've simply become a surface of truth, and that truth they don't want to face. So they'd rather accuse you, slander you, belittle you, not to destroy who you are, but to silence what they feel in your presence. This sign is hard to carry, because it often leaves you alone, misunderstood, wounded. But it is also proof that your energy touches something raw, something buried. And that in itself is a form of light, even if it burns. The fourth sign, you sense what others hide before they say a single word. You feel it in the air, an invisible tension, a discomfort hiding behind smiles, something unspoken lingering in the room. You can't always explain it, but you perceive it. You sense power games, contradictions, open wounds hidden behind polite speech. Your body reacts like an antenna. It picks up on things others don't notice. A tension in the voice, a glance that avoids, a word too much, a silence too long. And you understand. You don't judge, you don't condemn, but you know, and that unspoken clarity becomes heavy to carry. Because in front of you are people playing roles, sometimes even lying to themselves. And they sense that you see clearly. They feel it, even if you say nothing. And that non-verbal perception becomes a threat to their internal structure. You are the one who hears what's not said, who sees what no one else notices. And that often sets you apart, because this gift cannot be bought, cannot be controlled. It makes you different. You feel the energy of a place as soon as you walk in. You know if someone is sincere before they even speak. You sense hidden intentions, manipulations disguised as friendship, conflicts buried beneath silence. It's a gift, but also a burden, because you can't disappear into the crowd. You are awake where others sleep, and that sharp awareness sets you apart, not because you choose it, but because your aura lets nothing slip by. It absorbs, it reveals, it translates what others try to hide. And faced with that, people get nervous because they can't lie. Sometimes just your gaze is enough to make them falter, and you wonder what you did wrong. But you didn't do anything. You're simply tuned in to a frequency the world has forgotten. a frequency that tears through veils and makes hidden truths visible. And that frequency isn't a weakness, it's a responsibility. The fifth sign is that you quickly feel drained in crowded places. It only takes a few hours in the middle of a crowd, in a tense meeting, in a room full of chatter and tension, for you to feel exhausted. Not physically, but internally drained, as if your light had burned out from absorbing everything no one else sees. Your aura works like a filter. It picks up atmospheres, emotional states, energies from the environment, and it tries, without your choosing, to purify that subtle chaos. Your energy system doesn't know how to pretend. It feels, absorbs, analyzes, transforms. And in the meantime, you smile, you talk, you interact. But deep inside, you are emptying yourself. And when you get home, you are depleted. You need silence, solitude, natural light, nature, deep sleep. That need, some people don't understand it. They think you're antisocial, fragile, too sensitive. But they have no idea what it's like to live with such intense, invisible perception. Your aura is a living space. It constantly interacts with everything around you. And the more unstable the environment, the more it works. It tries to harmonize what's off, to restore balance, but it comes at a cost. That's why you need to step back, to reconnect, to recharge. It's not indulgence, it's necessity. Those who carry powerful energy need solitude to stay centered. It's not isolation, it's reconnection. It's not selfishness, it's inner survival. And if you don't listen to that need, you'll end up empty, irritable, disconnected from yourself. This world values those who scatter, but you're one of those who need to center. And you don't need to apologize for that. It's your nature, your truth, your balance. The sixth sign is that you can't stand appearances. You can't fake it. Even when you try, even when you want to fit in, your body betrays you. You feel uncomfortable in superficial conversations, empty interactions, social games based on lies and performance. Your aura rejects artificiality. It demands truth. And when you face hollow words, forced smiles, self-serving relationships, something in you shuts down immediately. You feel an internal tension, a quiet resistance, and you can't play along because your energy doesn't know how to lie. It doesn't know how to flatter, how to manipulate, how to seduce just to please. It's raw, authentic, unpredictable, and that makes people uneasy because the social world runs on masks, codes, and compromise. And you're one of those who disrupt all that. Not out of rebellion, but by nature. You are what you are, and that alone is enough to unsettle those who are not aligned with themselves. Your gaze is too direct, your silence is too deep, you're listening too attentive. You see beyond words, you perceive what hides behind intentions, and that creates a subtle discomfort around you. Some admire you for your clarity, others reject you for the same reason. They see you as cold, harsh, unreachable. But what they truly avoid is the demand for truth that you embody. You don't need to speak to expose what is false. Your mere presence creates a silent pressure that pushes others toward coherence. And those living in inner dissonance can't stay near you for long. It's not that you judge, it's that you impose, without trying to, a return to authenticity. And many don't want that return. They prefer the comfort of appearances. But you can't conform to that because your inner energy doesn't tolerate lies, not even ones masked as politeness. The seventh sign is that you are often misunderstood. You speak, but your words are misinterpreted. You offer an idea and they reduce it. You feel something deeply and they accuse you of exaggerating. There's an invisible gap between what you feel inside and how others perceive you. You come from another place. You speak from a depth that many have never explored, and that creates a disconnect. You're not on the surface of things. You are in the essence. You don't seek to impress. You want to understand. You want to go deep. You want to touch what is true. And around you, the world seems upside down. It values what is light, fast, flattering. You arrive with silence, with depth, with meaning, and often that doesn't pass easily. You feel like you're too much, that you don't fit in, and people make you feel it. You feel alone even when surrounded. You feel elsewhere even when present. You explain, rephrase, adjust, but nothing works. You're ahead in the conversation. You see what others don't want to see yet. And that clarity builds a barrier. You don't do it on purpose, but you live at a depth that few dare to reach. So you remain misunderstood. Not because you're complicated, but because you speak a language most people have never learned. The language of a lucid heart, of awakened awareness, of integrated shadow. And that language doesn't make consensus. It isolates, it makes you strange, it puts you at the edge, but it is your truth. You weren't made to shine in the crowd. You were made to illuminate the depths that few dare to explore. And that solitude, even if uncomfortable, is the price of an awakened soul in a sleeping world. The eighth sign is that you transform others without meaning to. You're not trying to convince. You're not trying to teach. You don't want to change anyone. You are simply yourself. And yet your presence acts as a catalyst. Something strange happens to those who cross your path. They begin to question their choices, to reevaluate their priorities, to walk away from what no longer feels like them. Some thank you, others blame you, because they associate you with the moment when everything in their life began to shift. Your aura stirs waters where there was once stagnation. It awakens, it shines a light, it surfaces truths the other person wasn't ready to face. You didn't do anything special, yet you become the trigger. And that can be heavy to carry because you weren't prepared for that role. Sometimes you are rejected for having revealed an inconsistency. You're erased from the life of someone you helped to rise. You're seen as disruptive, an intruder, a source of imbalance. But in truth, you are simply embodying a vibration that doesn't lie. A presence that without a word points out what must change. You are a powerful mirror, and that mirror makes people uncomfortable. It pushes them to act, forces movement, reveals their inner urgency. And this silent power you carry doesn't always bring recognition. It often leaves you with questions, with wounds, with separation. But you must understand this. It's not about you. It's the nature of your energy. It shakes, it doesn't flatter, it liberates. And freedom is frightening because it demands responsibility. Those you awakened, even if they rejected you, will one day return to what you gave them, without meaning to. And one day, they will understand that you were not a threat. You were simply too true, too soon. The ninth sign is that you cause fear without any apparent reason. You arrive somewhere, say hello, you're polite, calm, but you sense tension, restraint, a sudden distance. You perceive that some people become nervous, cold, or even hostile without you knowing why. You've done nothing wrong. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't provoke. And yet, your mere presence is enough to awaken a kind of fear, rejection, or suspicion. It's because your aura, silently, carries an intensity that others don't know how to handle. It exposes truths even in silence. It shakes facades. It vibrates what had been stagnant. And for those living in inner imbalance, that simple contact with stable energy becomes unbearable. You don't need to speak to be perceived as a threat. Your light is uncomfortable because it shines on what others would rather keep in the dark. It reminds them of another way to live, another way to be, more aligned, more lucid, more free. And that freedom unsettles those who are chained to their own illusion. So they demonize you, invent reasons to avoid you. They convince themselves you're strange, dangerous, manipulative, or too intense. They build walls so they don't have to feel what you make them feel. Because deep down, what they fear isn't you. It's what they become in your presence. They can no longer pretend. Their mask becomes too heavy. Their role crumbles, their defenses fall, and that terrifies them. You scare them without meaning to, because you represent a crack in their mental structure, a fracture in the backdrop, a light on the stage. And that fear is often irrational. It comes from their unconscious, from far away. But you absorb it, carry it, and sometimes you think it's your fault, but it's not. It's proof that your energy is working on a level that ordinary awareness can't control, and that even in silence, your vibration acts. The 10th sign is that you know things you've never learned. You didn't study certain subjects. You didn't read specific books. You didn't follow formal training. And yet you understand, you sense, you know. You're able to articulate truths others can't grasp, even after years of theory. You seem to intuit people's inner movements, their fears, their blocks, their deep needs. You ask the right questions without knowing where they come from. You have sharp intuitions, clear visions, unexplainable perceptions. And often you keep them to yourself because you know they aren't rational and they make others uncomfortable. Your aura is connected to something greater than yourself. It receives data, frequencies, information that bypasses the intellect. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, that shared memory among human beings where archetypes, ancient truths, forgotten wisdoms lie dormant. Your energy dives into that space. It pulls out flashes, insights, messages, and you carry them. You don't always know what to do with them. Sometimes you feel too heavy, too different, even strange. You question your own perception, but that perception is real. It's simply broader than what is considered normal. It goes beyond the limits of the visible. It's linked to a wisdom that moves through you without passing through the mind. And that's what disturbs people, because you know things without proof, without logic, without academic structure, and in a society based on verification, diplomas, and external authority. This kind of knowledge is seen as a threat. So you stay quiet, you hesitate, you hold back. You prefer to remain discreet. But deep down, you know what you feel is true. You feel that this wisdom doesn't come from you, but flows through you. And your aura is its vehicle. It's not a power. It's not superiority. It's ancient memory, an inner light, a voice that whispers in the silence. And that voice, even if it disturbs, speaks truth. You've understood the signs. You've lived them, maybe even suffered through them. But what you feel, what you experience in the silence of your being, cannot be explained only by external symptoms. There is something else, something deeper, older, vaster. There are invisible laws at work, psychic, existential, spiritual principles that very few know. But your energy activates them unconsciously. If you disturb, it's not only because of what you do, it's because of what you are. And that presence, that aura, clashes with hidden mechanisms most people are unaware of. Today is not about teaching you to dim what you are. It's about showing you why you disturb, and why that disturbance is silent proof that you live on a different plane. One of the first reasons is that your light confronts shadow. Every human being carries an unconscious part that Jung called the shadow. It holds unresolved wounds, repressed instincts, unknown truths, forbidden emotions. The shadow is what the ego refuses to see. And when you arrive with your clear, stable, vibrant aura, you illuminate that shadow. You don't mean to, you don't seek to, but you are that light. And that light becomes unbearable for those who've never looked within. It acts as a revealer. It brings up what was buried. It exposes tensions, lies, dissonances. And since shadow hates to be seen, it attacks, it flees, it rejects. What you're experiencing is not rational hostility. It's an archaic, primal, defensive reaction. The other feels threatened in their identity. They feel destabilized, exposed, vulnerable. And to protect their structure, they reject you, label you, diminish you. It's not you they're fighting. It's what you awaken within them. And the more aligned and bright you are, the more aggressive the shadow becomes. Because when you refuse to lie, you become a threat to those who live in illusion. And you must integrate this, not to become arrogant, but to understand that your aura, if it provokes, it's because it illuminates. The second invisible law is the conflict between authenticity and conformity. Your aura doesn't play games, doesn't pretend, doesn't fake. And in a society built on masks, that transparency is an insult. The social world functions on compromise. Roles, postures, polite lies, absurd hierarchies. And you show up with a vibration that rejects all of it. You don't fit the mold. You don't follow the codes. You don't submit to convention, not out of rebellion, but because your energy doesn't know how to do otherwise. You are authentic, and that authenticity acts like poison in a system built on conformity. It disturbs because it strips away illusions. It exposes what others have spent years hiding. You don't even say anything, but the way you are highlights the artificial. And that creates rejection. Because those who've built everything on appearance can't stand meeting someone who embodies being. You don't dress the way they expect. You don't speak how they expect. You don't pretend the way they do. And that alone is enough to trigger disproportionate reactions. You become the anomaly, the unstable element, the one whose mere presence disrupts the order. But that order is only a set, and you remind them there's something more. You are a crack in the performance, a breach in the system, and that frightens them because your truth threatens their lie. The third law is that the ego cannot tolerate what it cannot control. The ego wants to understand. The ego wants to control. The ego wants to categorize, but your energy doesn't fit any category. It is fluid, multiple, wild, intuitive. It transcends logic, and that puts others on alert. He can't grasp you. He can't dominate you. He can't trap you in a role. And so he feels insecure because he senses that you don't obey his rules, that you escape his manipulations, that you vibrate on a frequency he cannot reach. The ego is fascinated by what it doesn't understand, but also terrified by it. And that fear turns into rejection, into attack, into attempts to bring you down. It's not you he wants to crush, it's what he can't control. Your aura is free, and that freedom is a threat to those who live in attachment, fear, and dependence on external validation. You are a reminder of what they cannot dominate, and that truth triggers irrational behaviors. The fourth truth is that the rejection you experience comes from an unacknowledged mirror effect. When you are aligned, centered, authentic, you become a mirror that reflects to others what they are not yet. You don't mean to, you don't try to, but your aura reflects, reveals, shows, and what others see, they don't always like. They feel inferior, incomplete, fragile. They feel small beside you, not because you belittle them, but because you show them what they could be if they stopped betraying themselves. You are too calm. They are in chaos. You are too lucid. They are confused. You are too free. They are trapped. And instead of asking themselves hard questions, they attack you. They project their insecurity onto you. You become the symbolic enemy of what they don't want to face within themselves. And that rejection, that contempt, that judgment, it's nothing but a form of fear. A fear of having to grow, a fear of facing their own mediocrity. You're not hated for your flaws. You're hated for your light, because your light reveals the darkness they refuse to see. The fifth invisible law is that you don't just disturb individuals, you disturb the collective unconscious. You come into conflict with an invisible, ancient, dense memory. Humanity carries layers of trauma, control patterns, repeated wounds. And your aura, when it's too pure, too intense, disrupts that memory. It awakens it, breaks chains, brings buried pain to the surface. You represent what previous generations tried to silence, what institutions tried to erase. You are a reminder of what was persecuted, inner freedom, sovereignty, clarity. You are not dangerous, but you are perceived as dangerous because your very existence reactivates collective memories of rejection, exclusion, and violence. Some hate you from the first moment they see you, but it's not you they see. It's what you represent in their emotional memory. You are the living memory of what can no longer be repressed. The sixth and final truth is that your energy questions the very meaning of existence. You don't necessarily talk about spirituality. You don't give speeches. But your vibration, your gaze, your presence forces others to ask, why am I alive? Why do I stay in this job I hate? Why do I maintain this empty relationship? When did I lose myself? Your presence awakens existential questions, and those questions are dangerous to people who want to remain asleep. You haven't said a word, and yet they feel a sense of vertigo, a crack, a void, and they reject you, not because you're toxic, but because you're too alive, because you remind them the soul exists, that lies come at a cost. That truth always finds its way to the door, and that presence alone is enough to destabilize the balance built on denial. What you're experiencing is not an anomaly, it's a consequence. You carry rare energy, a stable frequency in an unstable world. And that inner stability, that silent density creates waves. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to defend yourself. You need to understand and transform. Because now, you are no longer asked to run from your light, but to own it. You now know what your aura provokes. You've seen the signs. You've understood the invisible laws. You're not crazy. You're not too much. You're not unstable. You are awake. And that is exactly what has exposed you. Now you must go further, because understanding is not enough. What you are living, you must fully inhabit. You must understand it from within, channel it, transform it. It's not your job to twist yourself to make others feel comfortable. It's your job to fully embody what you carry, to turn it into a strength, a serene power, a radiant consciousness. And here's how. The first thing you must understand is that you don't need to justify who you are. That's over. You no longer need to explain your calm, your gaze, your way of being. You don't have to over-adapt or shrink yourself. You are not responsible for how others feel in your presence, their discomfort, their rejection, their irritation. It is not yours to carry. You can't make yourself smaller so they feel bigger. You can't dim your light so they don't feel in the dark. You must learn to leave others with their projections and stay centered. Align yourself with what you know about yourself. Stop seeking validation. Stop waiting to be understood. Aim for internal coherence, not external approval. Your peace comes from there. Next, you must turn your sensitivity into intelligence. Your aura picks up everything. It feels what others hide. It senses what lies beneath the surface. And sometimes that exhausts you. But if you don't know how to channel that energy, it will consume you. You need to understand that you are a high-frequency receiver. And at that level of perception, the world becomes noisy, chaotic, dense. You must create rituals of release, spaces of purification. It's not a luxury, it's vital. Take time alone without guilt. Cut off the stimulation. Walk in nature. Breathe deeply, slowly, fully. Reconnect with silence. And above all, listen to your body. If it says stop, stop. If it says leave, leave. You don't need a logical reason to protect yourself. Your sensitivity is a compass. It knows before your mind does. Honor it. You must also understand that you cannot live like everyone else. You weren't made for artificial rhythms, empty relationships, toxic environments. And that's not elitism, it's honesty. Your energy system needs clarity, harmony, and slowness. You can't force yourself to operate in structures that suffocate you. It's not a weakness, it's a call to create your own space. Choose carefully what you watch, what you listen to, and who you share your energy with. You can no longer afford to feed off what poisons you. And if you feel that certain people drain you, walk away. Even if you love them, even if you feel guilty, even if they don't understand, it is not your responsibility to carry their resistance. You must cleanse, not out of rejection, but out of loyalty to yourself. Your path will never be mainstream. You weren't called to walk where everyone else walks. Your energy is that of a light bringer, a revealer, a being who disturbs because they awaken. And that involves solitude, not isolation, true solitude, the kind that lets you listen to yourself, understand yourself, rebuild yourself from within. It's in that solitude that you'll hear your true voice. Not the voice of others, not the voice of expectations, not the voice of roles. Your own, and it will tell you what to do, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it sounds crazy, even if it doesn't fit any plan. Because at that level, you no longer follow the world. You follow your soul. And then there's the wound. The one you've carried since childhood. The one of being too much, too different, too misunderstood. You can't avoid that wound. You must walk through it, because it holds a treasure. It's through that wound that you'll learn compassion for yourself, for others, for those who rejected you, betrayed you, abandoned you. Don't become bitter. Don't let anger take control. What you've lived has prepared you to carry a greater consciousness, to feel more deeply, to guide with wisdom, to fall and understand. And that is the path. You're not here to take revenge. You're here to transform. Not to dim, but to shine without arrogance. You don't need to dominate to exist. You just need to be deeply yourself. Learn to set sacred boundaries. Don't let just anyone into your inner space. You are not an open refuge. You are not an emotional hospital. You are a sanctuary, and that sanctuary must be protected. You can love without sacrificing yourself. You can help without losing yourself. You can welcome without collapsing. You must understand something essential. You don't have to be destroyed to prove that you are good. Your goodness doesn't need martyrdom. It needs grounding, strength, truth. You can't heal others if you are bleeding. You can't lift others if you are crumbling. So protect yourself, set boundaries, and stick to them, even if it bothers, even if it shocks, even if it disappoints. Reconnect with your intuition. It doesn't shout, it doesn't impose. It whispers, but it knows. It tells you what to avoid, what to embrace, what to wait for, what to release. And every time you listened to it, it brought you clarity. Every time you ignored it, you got lost. Your intuition is your inner authority. It is worth more than any opinion, any advice, any external pressure. Honor that voice. Give it space, give it importance, because it will lead you to your true place. And above all, don't try to be understood. You will always be too much for some. Too deep, too sensitive, too lucid, too free, too silent, too intense. And that too much you may have lived as guilt. But it is not guilt. It is your mission. You didn't come here to comfort. You came here to awaken, to carry an energy few can handle and many reject. You don't need approval. You just need to live fully, completely, intensely in alignment with what you already know. The world needs your light, even if it doesn't say so. Even if it doesn't accept it, even if it fights it. Don't let yourself be dimmed by those who fear themselves. Don't let their projections become your truth. Don't let their gaze define your essence. You are more than their opinions. You are more than their judgment. You are more than their unconsciousness. You are a presence, a vibration, a consciousness, and you came here to live it fully. You didn't choose your aura. It was slowly forged through everything you've endured unseen, without explanation. It was built in the nights when only silence was your refuge. It was born from your deepest pain, from your refusal to betray yourself, even if that meant being apart from others. For a long time, you believed it was a weakness. You even apologized for being too much, too sensitive, too intense, too deep, too lucid. You tried to blend into the crowd, to dim your light, to deny yourself just to be accepted. But nothing worked because who you are cannot be hidden. What you radiate cannot be controlled. And now you know the problem was never you, it was what you awakened, what you revealed without meaning to, what your energy imposed without a word. So stop denying yourself. Stop dimming what you feel. Stop repressing what you vibrate. Because everything you thought was a burden is in fact your role. You are a living reminder, a presence that shakes, a consciousness that illuminates. What you carry inside isn't meant to please everyone. It's meant to awaken those who are ready. And you don't need many. You only need to stay true to that vibration you know so well within. If you recognized yourself in these words, know that you are not alone here. No one will ask you to be less than what you are. Subscribe if what you carry within deserves to be understood, affirmed, embodied. Because it's not your aura that needs to change, it's the way you own it. And if this message spoke to you, leave this phrase in the comments: I'm no longer afraid of being too much. I choose to be real.